Welcome back to Grit Gym. Today we're talking why single leg squats aren't for balance. And the reason, I'm not going to go into why they're not for balance, because they're not for balance, but it's because of the conversion from a two-legged squat, so we're just going to call that a squat, to a one-leg squat. And to show this, we're going to use a split squat. Okay, split squat is really actually with two legs. It's not just with one leg, but it's where one leg is back. Maybe I can tilt this down a little bit and show you. One leg is back, one leg is forward, and you sit back into your hip, drop down, barely touch that knee, just tickle the ground with your knee and pop back up. That would be a split squat. Why is a split squat not for balance? It's on one leg. Why is it not for balance? Okay? Well, the reason is because you would think that what you could do 100% of on two legs, you would do 50% of on one leg, but that is not the case. You do more than 50% on one leg than you can on two, because the low back is the weak force transducer. That's why we do so much core stuff. You have to think of your legs like a spring. Your legs and your hips, they're a spring. And on top of that is a wooden block. A wooden block.
Just a hard wooden block.
The more stiff, the better. And on top of that is another spring. And on top of that is a small wooden block. The small wooden block is your head. The big wooden block is your trunk. And the spring, and the smaller spring is in the middle, the big spring is on the bottom. So you've got this spring, right? You've got a wood block, okay? And you've got a smaller spring, you've got a smaller wood block, okay? The thing is, these are your legs and hips. This is your core, this is your arms and upper back, this is your head. Okay? You have these in there to create movement. Now, you also have this really solid surface to jump off of. Now, if you think of the spring block is on top of a table, it's going to be able to big push off of and this big ping off the top of that table, right? Now, if we said that this was a pillow, we had the same spring, we had a cotton ball, same spring, cotton ball. Now, how high would the two cotton balls and the springs go? They wouldn't go very far, right? Because there's not enough tension to push the spring against the pillow and against the cotton ball. They don't go anywhere. Whereas the harder and more stiff the surface is, and the harder and more stiff that core is in the middle, the more you can get, that more pop you can get out of your legs, out of your hips. The higher you can go, the more weight that you can push. Now, now apply that over here. So if this is the weak force transducer, if this middle block, I want a red one, really. If this middle block is the weak force transducer, well, and we go from one leg to two leg, now we can actually, we can see why this is about 70%. You can do about 70%, I didn't mean to flick you off there and point with my middle finger. You can do about 70% on one leg of what you can do 100% on two legs. So if you can do, let's say that you can do a 200-pound squat on two legs, that's your max. That's like, you're doing a front squat and you're like, ah! You got to really do everything you can to put it up, but you can do 200 pounds on two legs. Well, we're going to be able to, you'd think, oh, well, that probably means I can do about 100 pounds on one leg. But that's not the case. You can do about 140 pounds, okay, because 70%. Almost everybody is going to fit into that model. That's how you convert this out. Okay, so it's not about balance. It's not about balance. You're going to have some balance to be able to hold one leg there. Okay? But the weak force transducer is the low back. So if we don't do single leg, now there's some people that can't do single leg, so I'm painting with broad strokes here. But let's say that it's the appropriate exercise to, you've got a good SI joint, you got good hip stability, you got good low back stability, you've built up your core, you're ready to do single leg squats. If we don't do single leg squats, we're actually leaving 30% on the table that we could have gotten more out of than just doing bilateral squats. So that's the reason. That's the reason it's not about balance. It's not about balance, but it's not about balance because the weak force transducer is the low back. You want a big, heavy spring down here. You want a decent sized spring up here. You want you want this to be as stiff, to be able to produce as much stiffness as possible right here so that you can get that big spring out of these and out of here. But anyway, that's why single leg squats aren't about balance. And how you convert from a squat to a single leg if we're using split squat as a thing. So this could be like our rear foot elevated split squat, some people call it. That would be the same thing as a split squat, just 1 foot back, or a Bulgarian squat. Some people call it that too, but that's the reasoning.